Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
The crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
David Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the only football podcast tonight. Week 8 picks. It is already week 8. Kyle and I are going to do our predictions. We've got a lot of great games week 8. So we're going to go over those games, talk about who's winning, who's losing. We're also going to talk about our top 5. And, of course, we're going to end it all off with the Chives with Kyle. Let's get it. America is football.
Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass for the moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my god.
No.
You loved it.
30-27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30-20.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. We have, I guess, our mid-season predictions already.
I know. Why do you have to say that?
I don't know. I hate that I say. Well, now there's 17 games, so let's just wait till week 9 to say.
Let's wait till week 8.5.
Yeah, let's do that. But yeah, a lot of great games here. We're kind of figuring out who these teams are, and I'm going to do something special for you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow on the Only Football Podcast, this first game, the Vikings and the Rams, I'm going to put out a video. It's probably going to be about 20 minutes. Ooh. And it is a deep dive. I'm going to start Thursday night deep dive. Since we're not streaming Thursday night, I'm going to do a little deeper dive than I normally do. And it'll probably be a 20-minute video. I may not even go live. It may just be an upload. But I think it'll be fun. So the Vikings. Yeah. All right. One thing I'm excited to see. They're playing the Rams. They're going to LA, coming off a tough loss. And now you basically get a walkthrough, and it's time to jump back on the plane and fly across country. This is going to be a tough road trip. And one thing I'm curious to see is how Minnesota is going to respond to their first loss of the season. We're seeing like right away the things that stand out to me. Let's focus on the Rams for a second. Matthew Stafford and the Rams just haven't been very good. Let's just call it what it is. Yeah. Matthew Stafford has been in the pocket. He hasn't really been improving as much as we're accustomed to seeing him. He normally rolls out of the pocket, makes, throws on the run. He's been kind of staying in the pocket. The offensive line has been pretty bad. So I think it's a right guard. They have a rookie. What is it? Right guard. Center is a rookie making his first start. I think right guard was somebody that made their first start last week. Left tackle and right tackle are the only two positions that you have any continuity. So the offensive line is, for the Rams, it's very young, it's very inexperienced, and it's going to have its hands full because Brian Flores loves to dial up blitzes. He likes to make it complicated. So how is the offensive line gonna respond? You look at the running backs for the Ram, Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, who they drafted out of Michigan. I mean, Kyron Williams may be one of the more underrated running backs. He finished last year with 1,200 yards. This year, I believe he's over 600 yards. So he has been not very good in pass protection. Okay.
Mhm.
So he's really good, but he's running into a lot of loaded boxes. He's running, I think it's 3.8 yards per carry, which means he's having to fight really hard for these rushing yards.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford, without a good offensive line, without a running back that can actually pick up these blitzes, it's really tough, and Stafford's having to get rid of the ball quick. Another thing, Parkinson, the tight end that they brought from Seattle, Colby Parkinson. Tyler Higbee does a lot for this Rams team, and Parkinson was kind of the guy that they were like, hey, we're going to need you to fill those shoes. As a pass catcher, he hasn't been able to do it. They've tried to rely on Parkinson the same way that they would rely on Tyler Higbee. Against the Bears, there was a red zone throw to him in a critical fourth down, didn't get it. Against the Lions, same deal, critical third down, not able to get it. They've been going to him the way they would go to Tyler Higbee, but as a pass catcher, he's just not able to fill those shoes. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua being out for as long as they have been, it's been a serious problem. You look at Cooper Kupp, a guy that had, I believe, 22 targets week 1 when we saw him last. 22 freaking targets. You're missing a guy like that on the field, a guy that's going to line up in the slot and basically have these option routes depending on what the defense gives him. One of the best zone buster wide receivers in the NFL. You're missing that. You're also on the other side missing Puka Nacua. Now they're going to get Cooper Kupp back for this game, it looks like, but still missing Puka Nacua and Tyler Higbee with this offensive line is going to be a huge challenge. And now for the Vikings, Sam Darnold, he's been doing, I think, a lot better than a lot of people expected. I mean, you got your team 5-1, just coming off their first loss. But one thing that has been his downfall is the turnovers. He's got 6 and 3 fumbles in his last 4 games, I think, something like that. So he has had some issues holding onto the ball. The other thing is the pre-snap penalties. I think they have 4 pre-snap penalties last week at home. You can't have pre-snap penalties at home. You just can't. Not against the Lions, a divisional game. So they're taking sacks. They're having pre-snap penalties. Justin Jefferson hasn't been able to crack that 100-yard mark. So they've been good, but their offense, London against the Jets, and then last week against the Lions, their offense just hasn't been good. So the key matchup for me is Brian Flores' defense going against this young and inexperienced offensive line. The Rams have pre-snap motion. I think it was 67% of their snaps, which is double the second place. Wow. So they are always running this pre-snap motion, so Matthew Stafford can figure out, okay, what are we in? Are we in man? Are we running a zone? What are we doing? And then he can, fix his protections at the line and then snap the ball. These wide receivers for the Rams, they're asked to do a lot more than receivers in other places. Like McVay wants his receivers to get off the line and go hit a linebacker. Like these guys have. They're not just these elegant wide receivers out on the edge. These are real tough football players. So the guys that have stepped in for Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp haven't been that great. A lot of them are speedsters that are maybe $170, just super light speedster guys. So getting cutback's going to be huge. But I'm going to go with the Vikings here because ultimately, I think if McVay, it's worth mentioning that McVay was the head coach when O'Connell was the OC when they won the Super Bowl. So there is some history there. But if there was a head coach that could get his team right under these circumstances, it would be maybe Kevin or Sean McVay, to be able to get his team right. But I just think that the Vikings are going to overwhelm the Rams on the offensive line. I think they're going to blitz early and often. and the defensive backs for the Vikings, they're pretty good, but they definitely rely on the pressure to get there. That is a key part of the game, and I think it's going to get there early. I think one way they can mitigate it is to run the football, but if the Vikings are able to stop the run, it's going to be a really long day for Stafford and the Rams. And the very last thing I'll say, I know this is kind of long-winded, the last thing I'll say is that the green dot, the linebacker that wears the green dot for the Vikings, I'm blanking on his name right now, leads the team in tackles. He was out last week, and the Vikings gave up touchdowns on 4 straight drives. Very uncharacteristic for the Vikings. You're seeing that green dot. I mean, that's a big deal. Like, you got Pace, what is it? Ian Pace Jr., the other linebacker who they're asking to wear the green dot. Not every linebacker wants that extra responsibility to when you got a green dot linebacker, like, there's good communicators and there's great communicators. And this linebacker, I think it's Whittington, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. He is a great communicator. So, I mean, he's up at the line, watch the screen, like, just very active. Somebody else may just want to, play his own game. Let me be instinctual. I don't want to talk to the other defensive players. And they're saying, Ian Pace, like, this is your role now. Now you have to do it. They got their nickel corner having to come in and play linebacker. This is not just like, this is a huge deal for the Vikings until they get their starting linebacker back on the field. So depending on how they hold up, that's going to be a key. If Cooper Kupp can they're going to have to get the ball out of his hands quick, and the Rams are going to have to be able to run the football. But I'm going to go with the Vikings to get this win on the road. I think Cooper Kupp is going to give them a bounce back. They're going to get some kind of offense going maybe, but overall, this defense is really good right now. When it comes to pressures, they have 3 players that have 5 or more sacks. There's not even another team with 2 players that have 5 or more sacks. So the Vikings are going to be coming after. They have an identity on the defensive side of the ball, and it just happens to be the very thing the Rams are terrible at right now.
Love it. Love it. Great analysis, and I'm looking forward to that Thursday deep dive, Kyle. So Kyle's bringing that content, baby. Bringing that content. And I want to give a huge shout out right now to Bill. We got Lil E in the chat, E-Dub, and Crafty with the comment of the night. Waiting for an Only Football podcast to begin is like waiting for the Raiders offense to wake up. I love it. Okay, so Thursday night football. And I think Bill's saying Jordan Kuznazik. Sounds right.
Yeah, I'm gonna verify.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Bill here. So Vikings at Rams. I think I'm going to bring up a stat that is going to be the stat that predicts this game.
That's
Blake Cashman. Got it. Okay. The Lions, we can all agree, play tough as shit. They beat their opponents, and they beat them up physically, on the scoreboard, whatever. The only loss so far has been to Tampa Bay this season. Now, this is what happens to the Lions opponents the following week after they play the Lions. The Rams, week 2, lost 41-10 to the Cardinals. The Bucks, week 3, lost 26-7 to the Broncos when they were favored by 6. The Cardinals lost 42-14 to the Commanders in week 4. Arizona was favored by 3.5. The Seahawks lost 29-20 to the Giants. Seattle was favored by a touchdown. Week 6, the Cowboys had a bye week in week 7. So we're going to see how they play against the 49ers. And now week 7, last week they played the Vikings, and now they play the Rams this week. I'm taking the Rams at home. The Lions beat their opponent, and it shows the following week. It just beats them up. So I've loved the Vikings really, like, ever since they've been pretty much undefeated, right? Like, they are a good team in my eyes. Like, Darnold is a great surprise. I think I've already said last week's predictions that after this game, after the game against the Lions, Darnold was going to kind of go And Darnold's going downhill because he's been on a few teams. So, I mean, he's been a journeyman quarterback to an extent, right? But I think this really is the week. The Rams don't have a very good defense. They don't. They've got some star players coming back, Stafford versus Darnold. I like that. But the big thing here is the week after you play the Lions is a tough week for you. I am not looking forward to when the Bears play the Lions because the following week I'm going to be like, what should I expect, right? So for me, I am going Rams in this one simply because the Lions absolutely demolish their teams physically. So I'm going to go Rams in this one at home. You're going Vikings. Thursday Night Football should be fun.
Yeah, and it wasn't until I really did the deep dive. I mean, because I feel the same way. I mean, you look at the comment from Crafty, or somebody said that they're gonna get good.
Yeah.
The Rams could go on a run if their top weapons get healthy, which is something that I think we all definitely believe in. Of course, like we know that Matthew Stafford's the real deal. The thing is they're not right now. And it's affecting them in a bigger way than I think we're really noticing. When you really look into the numbers, it's like this isn't the Rams team that was heating up at the right time. Not right now, they're not. They need to get some weapons back. But I think being at home is a big thing. Sam Darnold, who went to USC, is probably going to have a lot of family at the game, going back to Southern California. So that could be kind of a homecoming for him. But I think it's going to be a great game. You got the storyline with the coaches.
Yep.
You got Sam Darnold coming home. And then the last thing is, I forgot.
Love it.
It was important. Oh, of course. The post that I put on the Only Football podcast today, that post, I think is something worth mentioning. Stafford, I think he could get traded to Minnesota this year before the trade deadline. Now, I know, and it sounds crazy, but I think I'm feeling like 55% it's going to happen. There's actual talks heating up, nothing reputable yet, but this is why, at least to me, it makes a ton of sense. We talked about what are the Vikings going to do if Sam Darnold looks really good because they drafted J.J. McCarthy. So what are you going to do? And that is a serious predicament that they're going to be in, whereas Matthew Stafford has about one more year left. Matthew Stafford gets traded to the Vikings, who's in a Super Bowl window right now, win now mode, and tries to win a Super Bowl this year. And then at the end of the year, they can move on to J.J. McCarthy. The Rams get the quarterback of the future, who Sean McVay, can coach for the next 10 years. And for Matthew Stafford, he reunites with his offensive coordinator that he won a Super Bowl with in Minnesota. I just think it makes a ton of sense for this trade to happen, especially with Stafford. If he has any kind of relationship with McVay and you see him getting beat up, you see the way the O-line is, you see the running backs, he's taking a beating. It's like, we're not going to win a Super Bowl this year, but I already won you one. Why don't you do me a favor and send me to a team that will? And for the Vikings, they get to send a quarterback that they just proved you can absolutely win with. And if McVay trusts anybody, it would be his old offensive coordinator.
I have a very hard time seeing that, only because O'Connell's a good coach. Darnold obviously is doing really well in this system. I can't see that. I really can't. I don't know if Stafford's going to want to go to Minnesota. I don't know if he's going to want to move again, because it's been Midwest and it's been West Coast for him. I don't know if he's going to want to go to Minnesota. I understand the connection with him and O'Connell. I just have a hard time him being like, yeah, I'm signing off on this deal. He's struggling. The offensive line is struggling. Like that whole team in the Rams is struggling. And it could be, there's a lot of credit to the offense and what they've been able to do without their star guys, especially last year when Puka Nacua and Kyren Williams kind of stepped up. There really hasn't been any guys like that this year for them. They've just been on a struggle bus this entire time. The only consistent has been Stafford. I have a really difficult time seeing that happen. But if it happens, then that would be insane. I could see the J.J. McCarthy kind of moving that. I just don't know if the Vikings want to move off Sam Darnold yet, because They're second in the NFC North. They're in the playoffs right now. I don't know if you make a move like that where, yes, Stafford is also a good quarterback, but Darnold's still what, 27, 28 years old? Like he's very much younger than Stafford. So I don't know if you want to make that. I think that honestly makes the Vikings worse. Don't get me wrong. I love Stafford, but I really do think it makes the Vikings worse at the quarterback position at this moment in time.
See, I think the reason we feel that way is because of the football that we've seen this year. And I feel like the football that we've seen this year is because there's no Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp, or Puka Nacua, and these other replacements just aren't good. I think if you put Matthew Stafford on the Vikings, immediately you're like, oh yeah, he's got it. I mean,
what a move that would be, though.
It would be huge. It would be
huge.
It's just weird because typically it doesn't make sense to do something like that, but it actually, to me, makes a ton of sense. And I could see, these two coaches having a relationship. You kind of have to have some kind of relationship to make that significant of a move. So we'll see what happens. It's worth at least bringing up as the trade deadline approaches here in a couple of weeks. Our next game is going to be the Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland said today that Jameis Winston is going to be the starter. I also posted that on, I think I posted there, no tanking for Cleveland.
No tanking.
So Jameis Winston is going to be the starter. He threw for 19 touchdowns and 12 interceptions with a 61.2 completion percentage. Deshaun Watson did in his 19 games. So I think it's very realistic to say that Jameis Winston not may, but will be an upgrade at quarterback. So that might give the Cleveland Browns kind of an edge here because we're used to the Browns sucking. But look at the Browns last week. I mean, against Cincinnati, they had to return the opening kickoff to win the game. I mean, that's the touchdown that they won by. Now the Ravens are a juggernaut, and I'm in no way entertaining the Browns winning this game, but 8.5 points might seem a little generous. I would be inclined to say Cleveland, they lose, but maybe not by 8.5 points. But the thing is the Ravens feel like a juggernaut right now because they're able to run the football the way that they do. You're seeing 500 total yards of offense almost weekly. It's absolutely incredible what they're doing right now. They're really good at stopping the run, not good at stopping the pass, but is Cleveland going to be able to exploit that? Amari Cooper's gone. Now it's Jerry Jeudy, who's very hit or miss. I feel like the Browns are just in a kind of a tank mode right now. And I expect Jameis Winston to come in, I guess, make Browns fans proud, but still lose the game. I could see him throwing for 3 touchdown passes and 275 yards and 2 picks. And
one of those being a pick six.
Yeah. And, very emotional. Jameis Winston is. He's a man of many words. He's definitely going to be bringing the energy that Deshaun Watson was kind of draining this team of. I mean, it was almost like the energy was just sucked out of the room when he walked in. Jameis is a guy that, dude, you saw him pumping up the team for that preseason game this year.
Yeah.
Like, Jameis is going to have his team fired up, and he knows that it's him against the world right now. I think that's a great spot for Jameis to be. I would take the Cleveland Browns plus 8.5, and just watch out because the history tells you that anytime you make a quarterback change, it's a good thing for the team that does it for the first game.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be like a nice little spark for Browns fans who have been itching for a quarterback change probably for the last 4 weeks at minimum. Probably after week 2, if we're being honest with ourselves. But yeah, man, I could not agree more with what you're saying. Like, I feel like Jameis is going to come in here. He's going to bring a spark. He's going to bring some motivation to his teammates, to himself, just to the fans, to that entire stadium. But the Ravens are a fucking wagon. Like, it's not fair for these teams to go up against such a monster of an NFL team in the Ravens. Like, the Ravens are the top team right now in the NFL. Like they are, if not them, it's the Lions, but it's like interchangeable at this point. They are doing everything on the offensive side of the ball that you could ask for. Could you ask for some more passing yards? Yeah, maybe. But I mean, Lamar Jackson threw for 5 touchdowns. Like that's just an insane stat in 1 week. So they're doing everything correctly. They are killing it in the run game. Derrick Henry last week had 2 runs of 80 plus yards, one of them going for a touchdown. That already blows the amount of rush yards that the Cleveland Browns defense is giving up out of the water. I think they're giving up like 132. That's already 160 plus yards. So Derrick Henry himself is going to be able to run all over this defense of Cleveland, which has just completely taken a nosedive from who they were last year. So I plus 8.5 or plus 8 for the Browns. Yeah, I probably would take that too. I mean, it's still an NFL team that you're still going to play at this high level. But I just think the Ravens still take it away. And not even like take it away in a way where you think maybe the Browns have a shot. It's like, no, they just fucking snatch that shit and they take a dub. But I would be wary if I'm Ravens fans, because this could be, like you said, could it be a spark? This game may be closer than what we expect, like sometime late in the 3rd, early in the 4th, and then the Ravens might just break it open there at the end. But I'm taking the Ravens to win this one for sure. Jameis Winston, like we said, maybe a couple touchdowns, but definitely a couple picks for sure.
Yeah. It wouldn't be right if he didn't.
It wouldn't be Jameis if you didn't do that.
It'd be a couple.
Yeah.
All right. This next game is, I think, fascinating. The Green Bay Packers going to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars, who've been in London for the last 2 weeks. They lose to the Bears, and then they win their second game, which they played their most complete game of the season.
Yep.
Yes, it was against New England, but it matters. It matters for their mental. It matters because here's the thing. Jacksonville was playing at a level where people were like, they're one of the worst teams in the league. So when you go against a team that many think is the worst team in the league and you blow them out, all of a sudden you've separated yourself. This is what you're supposed to do. And if Jacksonville would have barely won, like by a field goal, people would have been like, yeah, that win doesn't really matter. But the way they won, that's why it matters, is because they showed that when they're playing good football, they're not like New England. We've never seen New England look the way Jacksonville looked against New England. So I think Jacksonville needed that kind of momentum boost. And now here they are in the situation where their back's against the wall. It feels like their entire season's hanging in the balance, and they're at home going against a Packers team. I think I don't know why, but I'm feeling like the Jags are going to potentially win this football game. Now, this is going to be a really tough game, and this is going to be a big test for Green Bay. Green Bay's 5-2 on the season, still 3rd place in the NFC North because of how difficult that division is. And if they want to keep pace in that division, they can't lose games like this. But it's the NFL, and losing happens.
Kyle's thinking about it.
This is my upset of the week. I'm taking Jacksonville at home.
Oh, let's go. Kyle's taking the home dogs, Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, it pains me to say this, but I'm taking the Packers, man. I believe me when I say I was in the same situation you're in, picking the Jags. I was like, oh, they just won. They look good against the Patriots, but the Patriots were up 10-0 in that game before the Jags finally actually were like, hey, we're supposed to win this so our coach doesn't get fired. Oh, that's right. Let's do that. And then they started winning the game, right? So they ended up winning the game against the Patriots. Also, it's like a rookie quarterback. Like, I get you guys suck on your secondary, but it's a rookie fucking quarterback. Like, let's do something who's making his second start of the year. Like, let's pretend we're an NFL team for a bit. But I was in the same situation. I want to pick the Jags at home, fresh off their second game in London with a win. But the Packers they're better. They're just better. Jordan Love is going to light up that secondary. He is, and he might throw a pick. He might throw 2 picks because really, at the end of it, he's more Brett Favre than he is Aaron Rodgers. And I think you've said that before on this podcast. Like, he's definitely more the gunslinger type. And it's Brett Favre was a gunslinger type. So to me, I think he's going to carve these guys up. I picked up Romeo Doubs off waivers because I'm like, Jacksonville Jaguars secondary. Yeah, I think Romeo might go off, but we'll see. Right. So
you want Brian Thomas Jr.?
I'll take Brian Thomas Jr.
I'll trade you.
You want Jake Ferguson?
Why do you keep trying to sell me Jake Ferguson? I have Tucker
Because you
Kraft,
asked me for Jake Ferguson last time.
And TJ Hawkinson. Like, I don't need
two of three who are out.
Goddard is going to play this week.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Send me an offer. I'll review it. But yeah, man, you mentioned Tucker Kraft. He's been having a really good season as a tight end.
Third with receiving yards for the Packers right now.
Wow. See, like that's just very impressive with what Jordan Love has been able to do with his weapons. One of the things you brought up was every week it could be somebody different. And it seems like Tucker Kraft is really taking that like number 2 role next to Jaden Reed. It could be anybody. It could be Dobbs. It could be Watson, Reed, whoever. But it seems like Tucker Kraft is definitely taking that number 2 role there. But yeah, dude, I don't really have any argument for the Jags to win this other than maybe Trevor Lawrence has another really good game. But I trust Xavier McKinney. I like Jair Alexander. I like those guys on the defense. I like the ability to get to the quarterback, which a lot of teams have been able to exploit against this Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line. So I got to take the Packers with this one, but I can absolutely see why you're taking the Jags.
Yeah, and I think it'll definitely be a good game. I think the safest thing to do is to take Jacksonville plus 4.5 and just hope that if the Packers do win, which feels likely, that it will be a last-second field goal because Jacksonville's going to give them a run at their money. And if Jacksonville just wins it outright, you're safe. Yeah. So I think that's the safest way to do it. But yeah, man, I'm excited to see what Brian Thomas Jr. looks like in this game. I didn't know if I should start him or not because the projections on fantasy said don't, because they were like, hey, start Devontae Adams. And I'm like, I get it. Like New England, but it just feels like Brian Thomas Jr. is getting you 20 points almost every week, it seems like. And he's right now the 12th receiver in the league. So we'll see what I do. I'm still deciding, but I think I'm just going to trade him so I don't have to go through these emotions every week. I have too many receivers, and it's actually it's not as fun as you think it sounds. It's a problem.
You're a better fantasy owner than I am, because I'd be like, oh, it's so nice to have this guy on my bench, though, that I don't want to fucking give him up for anybody. And that's why you've won a championship.
All right. Next up, we have, let's keep it in the AFC South. The Colts are going to Houston to take on the Texans, who are 5-2. In week 7, the Texans had a nail-biting loss to the Packers. Last-second field goal by Brandon McManus. CJ Stroud played a terrible game, but I'm going to credit Green Bay's defense because Green Bay's defense has been just stellar this year. The Colts, I think this is kind of an opportunity for CJ Stroud to get back on track, but without Nico Collins. So this is proving to be more of an issue than people thought. And I went into the season, I don't know if you remember, but I said Nico Collins might lead the NFL in receiving yards this year. And he's definitely the best receiver for the Texans.
And wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like before he went out, he was on pace.
He was on pace. And now Tank Dell, who kind of has to take this role, he's off to a slow start. He's only caught 20 passes for 194 yards and a touchdown in 7 games. So that's not really picking up the production. The Colts are getting healthier on both sides of the ball. They have Jonathan Taylor back, DeForest Buckner possibly returning to action in this game. So the Colts, I mean, week in and week out, they're a toss-up team. You just don't know what you're going to get. I feel like the Texans are the safe pick here, even though even though the Colts can be feisty. They're a 4-3 team, and a win ties them with the Texans at first place. This is a huge game for Indianapolis, but the fact of the matter is I don't trust Anthony Richardson, and I'm always going to look at the quarterback matchup. You're talking C.J. Stroud versus Anthony Richardson. I'm going to take C.J. Stroud. I know they both struggled last week, but Anthony Richardson's struggles feel like they may be longer lasting than Stroud's.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson's struggles are like a day-to-day, a week-to-week thing, and it could be the worst secondary with the worst pass rush, and it could be the best secondary and the best pass rush. Regardless, Anthony Richardson is struggling. Now, we saw C.J. Stroud pass for less than 100 yards last week, less than 90 yards, I believe, against the Packers. Credit to the Packers. They got a lot of pressure on him. That offensive line for C.J. Stroud is not good in Houston, and that's why he had such a terrible, terrible game. The loss of Nico Collins is huge. It really is like a huge, huge loss. Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs were able to kind of elevate themselves to, in a sense, not replace Nico Collins, but be good enough to where, maybe we can definitely do this without Nico Collins. And then after that, it hasn't really been the same. Like, they haven't really been the number one. Maybe Stephon Diggs has against the Bills in that game. That was kind of it, right? Like, Tank Dell hasn't really lived up to the hype that he had last year. But they definitely missed Nico Collins like a lot. But you're right. Who do I trust in this one? Do I trust C.J. Stroud at quarterback, even with a very shaky offensive line, or do I trust Anthony Richardson, who can't throw a 20-yard pass but can throw a bomb at like 70 yards, right? Like, I'm going to take C.J. Stroud, and, the running backs, Joe Mixon, Taylor, unless Taylor, is he not playing again? I forget. I think he's injured. Is he not?
I'm not sure.
Taylor.
No. He should be back.
Okay, he should be back. Okay. I mean, I'm taking Jonathan Taylor over Mixon, but if it gets down to the passing game, it's going to be C.J. Stroud, and it's going to be the Texans defense that's going to give Anthony Richardson a really, really hard time. This is for first place in the division, by the way. Like, this is for first place. And I think right now the Texans have the slight edge. They do. It's 5-2. If the Colts win, they're 5-3. Their division goes to 2-2, 2-1. Actually, I think it is technically for first place, but even so, the Texans would still have the better division record. I don't know what happens there, but I could have sworn it was for first place. Regardless, all that being said, give me the Texans. Give me C.J. Stroud and give me that defense.
Yeah, and so far, Joe Mixon, 16th in the NFL in rushing yards with 401. Jonathan Taylor's only played in 4 games, and he has 349.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
Jesus. Yeah. Torch the Bears.
Yeah, when he's playing at his best, like, he's one of the best in the league, top 3.
Absolutely.
This is gonna be probably my game of the week coming up. The Philadelphia Eagles at Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, who are 3-4, very slow start to the season, back-to-back wins. A win here would give them the same record as the Eagles, who are currently 4-2. Cincinnati, they're winning these games, but in the last 2 weeks, their offense definitely has lost some steam. If you actually watch those games, it was not the typical Joe Burrow offense that we're used to seeing. They still covered the 3.5-point spread, and then the 4.5-point spread against New England, or the Giants and the Browns, but it was in an ugly way, and now they're favored by 2.5 going into this game. Yeah. So will Cincinnati be able to win this game by 2.5 points? This is kind of tough because last week Philly executed their offense at the highest level since the first game of the season when they played Green Bay in Brazil. But they did it against a struggling Giants team. So it's hard to put that into perspective. the Bengals are back, right? I mean, that's what we're thinking.
Mhm.
Well, something still feels off about the Bengals right now. Personally, maybe Zach Taylor's a mediocre at best coach.
You're not wrong.
Maybe Joe Burrow has been kind of keeping this thing going, and right now we're just seeing that this Bengals team, even though they're winning games, because in the past it's like they have a slow start, but then when they turn it on, it's like they
Mhm.
turn it on.
Mhm.
They've won their last 2 games, but it doesn't feel like anything's turned on yet. They
Yeah.
just got, lucky with their matchups against the Giants and the Browns, who are kind of struggling right now. Now
Mhm.
they're playing a team that's 4-2, but the Eagles have had their own struggles too. And that's what makes this game really difficult to pick. I'm still waiting for Cincinnati to play a good game of football on both sides of the ball. It's either been the offense that's played well or the defense has played well. I'm not sure if we're going to see it against Philadelphia. I'm not convinced that the Eagles are legitimate contenders right now either.
Yeah.
So this game, I'm going to learn a lot about both teams in this, but I'm going to take Cincinnati at home. I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to trust Joe Burrow to get it done against the Eagles. The one thing to monitor is Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
Saquon Barkley, how many yards did he have last week? I mean,
100,
167, I think.
something like that.
Something ridiculous. So how is Cincinnati's defense going to hold up? They have the 21st ranked rushing defense, giving up 136 yards per game.
Mhm.
They're going to have their hands full. And
Yep.
if the Eagles are smart, that's where they're going to start offensively, and they can branch off of Saquon Barkley. But that's going to be the game plan, and Cincinnati's going to have to be ready. They, like I said, they've won 2 in a row.
Mhm.
In their last 3 games, Cincinnati is actually ranked like around 12, with giving up only 127 yards
Yeah.
instead of 136, 123 instead of 136. So the defense has been playing pretty well the last 2 weeks. Still not great, but I'm just rolling with the home team. But I feel like this is a total flip of a coin.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. Because it's tough because Jalen Hurts and this offense, pass offense, have not gotten it going. But we have to also take into consideration that AJ Brown has been out and that Devontae Smith have been out. And you mentioned Goddard too, right? Like he's been out of games. I think he's coming back this week. Jalen Hurts and this offense are going to get a lot of their passing weapons back. Saquon Barkley is a weapon on his own. Like he has been the offense for the Eagles because the rushing offense has been what, top 3, top 5, because of how great Saquon has. Like this is going to be a very, very difficult game for the Cincinnati Bengals defense because if you're going to let them torch you on the ground, you're going to try to stop that run as much as you can. And that's when AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and if Dallas Goedert is healthy enough without any lingering pain or injury or whatever, that's when these guys are going to just grab a pass, take it for 30 yards, take it for a touchdown. Jalen Hurts can beat you. Has he looked off as well? Absolutely he has. There's been something from last year to this year where it just doesn't look good, except for Saquon Barkley. Again, the injuries definitely play a part, but other than that, it just hasn't looked good. So I think for the Bengals, this is going to be a huge test for the defense. If you want to go quarterbacks, I have to take Joe Burrow over Jalen Hurts, just because I mean, they've both been to a Super Bowl, but Joe Burrow has looked a little bit better, slightly better, and they have the better passing game. And that's what happens when you have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on your side, right? But I wanted to take the Bengals. The defense is worse than the Eagles' defense by a pretty big enough margin where I think that makes the difference in this game. The defense for the Eagles looks a little bit better. They're getting sacks on the defensive front. I'm taking the Eagles to win this one, and I think they beat the Bengals at home, and this is going to be bad for the Bengals after this week, because a lot of people are going to look at this loss and be like, that might be it this year for the Bengals.
Yeah, and Jacksonville's kind of in that situation too. Another team in that situation is the Jets, and the Jets are desperate for a win right now. I mean,
yeah,
to me, this is a much needed get well game for the Jets. The defense has definitely taken, I'll say, several steps back since firing Robert Saleh. But this New England team can make any defense look good. The Patriots have a bottom 5 rushing attack in the past month. Christian Gonzalez, great corner, but he can only cover one of either Garrett Wilson or Davante Adams.
Yeah.
Davante Adams didn't have a great game, I guess, last week. I expect that to change this week. I know that he didn't do much in his debut, but this is going to me, be a big game from Davante Adams. And I think this is going to be a very convincing win for the Jets. I all week you've heard Aaron Rodgers say, like, it starts with me. We have to bring the urgency. And also, the only way to go on a 10-game win streak is to win one. And that's kind of the approach here. So, I mean, I think we've heard these moments. Aaron Rodgers has had them throughout his career. You got the RELAX. You got the run the table. The year he said, we got to run the table. He has these little things. This year, they find themselves in that same situation. But I think Aaron Rodgers is like the perfect quarterback, because he's proven when you're in these situations, you're not out. You're down, not out. Yeah. Not until they, like, for instance, lose this game. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that when the Jets have a significant win, we can just be like, oh, the Jets are fixed. This is going to be awesome with Davante Adams, because that didn't work out so well last time we said that after they beat the Patriots 24-3. They're 0-4 since that game. But I do think this is going to be a pretty big win for the Jets, and I think it's the perfect type of win to get them moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah, this is going to be what week did they play the Patriots? Week 2, week 3?
Well, it's week 8 and it's been 4 weeks. So week 3?
Yeah, week 3 is when they played them, right? And that Jets offense looked good against that defense. Obviously, the Patriots have made a change at quarterback, and they look a little bit better with Drake May. Like, we got to give him credit. I don't know what's going on with Drake May, but he looks way better than Jacoby Brissett. Maybe this does kind of lead into the whole, hey, sit him for a little bit, then start him behind the veteran, right? Because with whatever Jacoby Brissett was doing, it just didn't look good. But a lot of people were like, hey, we also don't want our boy Drake May getting killed behind that offensive line. But he's a tough kid so far. Like, he has taken some hits, and he has looked pretty damn good in the pocket doing it.
Yeah.
Especially for, the rookie quarterback who, coming into this year, the biggest criticism was like his footwork. He's unpolished. He's looked pretty good. I think the Jets are also going to take a dub here, but I think it's going to be very close early on. Like, that first half, I feel like it's going to be like a 10-9 game, 13-10 type of game where you're going into halftime and you're like, oh my God, what is going on with the Jets, or what is going on with the Patriots? The Patriots look good, what have you. But in the second half, I am really, really thinking that the Rodgers-Davante Adams connection is going to flourish, and they're going to get 2 touchdowns in that second half against the Patriots. You're right. Christian Gonzalez is one guy and can only cover Davante Adams, Garrett Wilson, Lazard is leading the league in touchdowns right now. So he can only guard one of those guys. Everybody else, DJ Reed, I think, is injured for the that's the Jets. Sorry. For the Patriots, like, they've got Christian Gonzalez. That's it. Everybody else is kind of like, fuck, we got to get Garrett Wilson or Davante Adams. It's going to be rough that second half for the Patriots, but I think it's going to start off very similar to how the Patriots played the Jags. They're going to come out looking good. And then second half comes around and Drake May isn't doing that well. Maybe the Jets defense finally looks good in a game again and is able to sack, intercept, do something, pressure Drake May into errant throws, into interceptions, just bad play all around in the second half. I don't think the Gerard Mayo "we're playing soft" comment is really going to get to players, because there's a lot of mixed reactions from defensive players. There's people who are like, yeah, we don't look like a tough team at all. We can't do this, we can't do that. We're not a tough team right now. And then there's a lot of people that were like, hey, we're playing our asses off. You were just getting beat. Like, we're playing tough. We're trying. It's not the Raiders business decision type of defense. It's we're trying. We're just getting beat. So a lot of mixed reactions there. So I'm going to take the Jets to take the win in Foxborough. But it's very close in the first half. But the second half, Jets break it wide open with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers.
All right. Next up, you'll never believe it. We got an NFC South matchup. The Atlanta Falcons at Tampa Bay.
This is the 13th time.
This is definitely the 7th time these two teams have met. Doesn't it feel like we've seen it at least once, though?
At minimum, one time.
Wasn't this game on Thursday night, like 2 weeks ago?
I think this is Thursday night tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
No, this was totally on Thursday night 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It was like New Orleans and the Bucks, I think, or something like that.
And then I thought it was Tampa and Atlanta, because then it went to overtime.
You said 2 weeks ago, so
yeah, because it went to overtime, and it was like Atlanta won. It was a crazy comeback. They had no chance.
It was San Fran and Seattle. Week 7 was Broncos Saints. Week 5 was Bucks Atlanta. Yeah.
Okay.
Week 5.
So yeah. Okay. So
you're close.
They did just meet not too long ago, but now they're going to be without Godwin. Now they're going to be without Mike Evans. Mike Evans is supposed to miss multiple games. Godwin's likely going to miss the rest of the season with surgery on his ankle. So they're going to have to elevate Trey Palmer, and then the rookie out of Washington, Jalen McMillan, who saw, I guess, more targets than usual last week, but not in the right place at the right time. Didn't look like he was ready for this role. This is going to be interesting for Tampa, because we're going to see how they respond to the loss of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They're either going to fold, or they're going to embrace the underdog role, and they're going to come out swinging. I think we're going to see the latter. I think the Bucs are going to come out, maybe lean on their newfound rushing attack that they just discovered. And because they were able to run the football really well. Bucky Irving's looking really good, but Rachaad White is still leading as far as touches go. So they're going to have to run the ball well. And this is kind of like, okay, Baker's your $100 million quarterback. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are out. Can Baker Mayfield be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? Is he a top 12 quarterback or a top 5 quarterback? If he's going to be top 5, he's going to need to elevate Trey Palmer and Jalen McMillan. He's going to need to make those guys that we haven't heard of have 100 yards receiving, one of them, and maybe a touchdown. How good is Baker? Is he good enough to elevate? We're going to learn a lot about Baker in this game. The Falcons, they are coming off a bad loss against Seattle, and they're going to want to get right. They're a 4-3 team. Tampa's a 4-3 team. But I think Atlanta's flaws have been hidden in a big way this year. Specifically, 3 of their 4 wins are miracles. They could so easily, I'm not even kidding, they could very easily be 1-6 right now. And they're not. They're 4-3. But I'm going to go with Tampa Bay to rally, embrace the underdog role. Atlanta's 2.5-point favorites. I'm going to take the dogs here. I'm going to take Baker to prove that he can elevate these other players, and they're going to have to lean on that running game. Bucky Irving's going to need to have a big game. Rachaad White, a couple touchdowns, but They just had that game against the Ravens, which can really take the energy out of you, but it can also be one of those games where you just want to put it behind you real quick. Denver lost to the Chargers, and then they had to play on Thursday night, and it was a great thing because we were able to get the taste out of our mouth.
Yep.
I think the Bucs are going to have that approach. I'm just going to go with Tampa here. I want to go Atlanta. It makes sense to go Atlanta, but I'm going to put my trust in Baker Mayfield this week and say Atlanta's a tad overrated right now.
And Edub is saying, embrace the Mayfield. I love it. This one was a very, very hard choice for me. The injuries of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are huge. And you're right. Is Baker Mayfield going to be able to go into this divisional matchup and say, McMillan, Palmer, Otten, Rachaad White, we got to do it. We got to take this dub, right? Especially at home. I just cannot get over the injuries, man. It's really tough for me to pick a team that is struggling with injured wide receivers, even though I've done it with the Chiefs pretty much this entire season. But it's a completely different animal with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes now. But you're right. This is a time for Baker Mayfield and the Bucs to prove that they can do it without their top two weapons. I just really have a tough time seeing it. Bijan Robinson last week went off. Kirk Cousins and the defense failed the Falcons last week. Like there was nothing about the offensive weapons that had a tough time last week, except for Cousins. It was really all on the defense and Cousins that lost them the game. So I have to stick with the team that all their star players are healthy right now. Their running back is going off. Drake London is like third or fourth in the NFL or leading the NFL in touchdown receptions, I think, something like that. No, it was Lazard. Sorry. So he's probably like third or fourth, something around there. So I think I got to go with Atlanta here. You're right, though. They play a lot of miracle ball. And we saw that with Kirk Cousins on the Vikings not too long ago, a couple seasons ago, right? With the worst point differential, and yet they were like 11-5 somehow. So this might just be a Kirk Cousins thing, but they are playing that miracle ball that they need stuff to happen with the last second field goal. They need to get into overtime to win these games. I don't know. It's for me, it's a, like you said, it's the sensible pick to go with. And I think I have to go with it. I love Baker Mayfield. He's leading the league in touchdown throws right now, which is awesome. But I think he's got a lot of interceptions too. And again, he's missing his weapons, and both defenses, they don't really inspire much. I don't think they're that good in terms of ranks. So I got to go with Kirk Cousins and the healthy offensive lineup here. I'm going Falcons.
Yeah. And this is like the game of our predictions of the winner of the division.
Yeah.
Because you went on, Atlanta right when Kirk Cousins got traded, and I was like, But Baker, and
I was like, I know.
So yeah, that'll make it exciting too. But definitely not ideal not having your weapons out there. A weapon that will be back probably is Tua Tagovailoa.
Mm-hmm.
The Arizona Cardinals are going to Miami. The Cardinals are 3-4. We talked about it. The NFC West is wide open with the 49ers dropping to 3-4. The Seahawks losing 3 of their last 4. So Arizona, I mean, their season, they know it. I'm sure it's being talked about all week in the meetings. Like, hey guys, just so you know, 3-4, not great. Doesn't fucking matter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want to win the division? All you have to do is go win these games. Miami, getting Tua back. This is a huge deal. Miami hasn't had more than 179 passing yards in its last 4 games with Skylar Thompson, Tyler Huntley, and Tim Boyle. None of them got more than 179 passing yards. When Mike McDaniel said Tua is the perfect quarterback to run the system, obviously he's right, because none of these other guys even came close to putting Tua's type of numbers out there. Tyreek Hill, I saw a video of him. He's just like, we're back, basically. Like, I'm expecting Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I have Waddle on my bench too. I thought he was going to be a flex for the whole year and I have had no use for him. But now with Tua coming back, I feel like that immediately puts him in the top 25 category, him and Tyreek. How good is it going to look right away? Well, it was a concussion. It wasn't an ankle. You know what I mean?
Or shoulder.
A shoulder or something that is going to be lingering on. It's something that I expect Tua to be 100% when he's back on the field. And I think 100% Tua Tagovailoa brings the Dolphins back to a team that wins at least double-digit games. This is a game that the Dolphins at home with Tua coming back, they're going to get an emotional boost. I know that Arizona really wants this one. I know it's a big deal. The Dolphins, though, they have less margin for error if they want to get into the postseason than Arizona, and I'm going to take the Dolphins here. I think they're going to actually win this game by, I'm going to say, 13 to 17 points.
Ooh, big win for the Dolphins here. We got Jinja in the chat. Jinja, what's going on? Is Brock that guy in San Francisco too, just to system until he's gone? Maybe. We'll definitely get to them here in a bit. We still haven't gotten into the afternoon games, so we'll definitely talk about them for Sunday Night Football.
But that's the thing, though. It's not just a system, because if it were, then these other quarterbacks would have put up those numbers.
Exactly. And you know what I think the Dolphins really fucked up on? They had all these quarterbacks, but the only person who could have been able to have this offense work was the Pastronaut, Joshua Dobbs. If they brought in Joshua Dobbs, this offense would not have skipped a beat. Or Brock Purdy. They should have drafted a Brock Purdy. Why doesn't everybody just draft a Brock Purdy in the 7th round?
It's hard.
Yeah, you're right. It is a little hard. No, yeah, the boost emotionally from Tua, the talent boost, like Tyreek Hill's gonna probably eat in this. Jalen Waddle's probably gonna eat in this game. But like you said, it may take a quarter and a half. Obviously they've practiced, but the game is very, very different, right? In game, obviously. So I think it might take a quarter and a half, but the second Tua runs out on that field for the Dolphins, the crowd is going to go absolutely crazy. They're going to give them a standing ovation. That stadium is going to go absolutely mental, man, because they know the struggles that Tua has been through all of not last year, but the year prior, with all of the concussions again this year. And we've seen what the Dolphins are without him. So I can't see the Dolphins losing this game. I can definitely see the Cardinals losing this game, especially in Miami. I like the Cardinals offense. You said it at the very beginning, right, of the season, even preseason. You're like, I think they're going to be a little bit, they're going to be a little bit of a feisty team, a hard out, if you will. And for the most part this season they have. And against the Chargers last week, they were able to put up some points, but it was definitely not the amount of points that they put up on the 49ers, that they put up on who else did they beat? There was a come from behind or a really good win. I forget who it was. It was like a really good team that they were able to beat. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do this against Miami, although Miami's defense isn't great. But I feel like the crowd, the Chargers crowd. No, I think they put up more points on another team. I forgot who it was. They came back on the 49ers. Obviously, they beat the Chargers just last week, but I think maybe it was the Rams. I can't remember.
Maybe the Bills.
Maybe the Bills.
But I think they lost at the end.
Yeah, and I still think they put up like good numbers.
Oh yeah, they put up like 30, I think.
Yeah, and it was like, holy shit, what? Like,
I think that was week 1.
Was it week 1? No way. I can't remember.
It was September 8th. Yeah, week 1.
Okay, so it was week 1. Okay, so they did put up
28-34.
28-34. Okay. Yeah. 4 touchdowns. I mean, nothing to scoff at either, especially with rookie number 1 wide receiver and James Conner there. So, but I think the home crowd is going to be a huge factor in this game. Again, the Dolphins defense isn't great. They've held a lot of bad teams to very little points, but against good teams, they're kind of letting up a lot of points, sorry. But the home crowd is going to be a huge, huge factor in this. Tua obviously coming back into this system, being the quarterback, is going to be a huge, huge factor. I'm also taking the Dolphins to win this one against the Cardinals. But the Cardinals, I think, make it a little spicy. I think they make it a little spicy at the end. Maybe the Dolphins are up by 14. the Cardinals come in, score a touchdown, then they get a field goal. Now you're only down 7, but the Dolphins are able to get that first down with 1:20 left after the Cardinals used their last timeout in the fourth quarter, and they get that dub by 7.
Damn. So you're predicting a close game, maybe a little rust.
Yeah, little rust, but they'll get into the groove for sure.
Sometimes too, the emotion can be a bad thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, we talked about Arizona, that impressive game against Buffalo. Let's talk about Buffalo because they're 5-2. They have a road trip to Seattle. It's pretty far flight.
Mm-hmm.
Amari Cooper, immediate impact. Josh Allen has a number 1 wide receiver. I think he had 5 targets last week. One of them was a touchdown, 66 yards. And that was against Tennessee, who has, for a large portion of the season, had the number 1 passing defense in the league.
Yeah.
So imagine what he can do with maybe more vulnerable defenses. The Bills are a pretty all-around just good team right now. They have a good running game with James Cook. Ray Davis, who they got in the 4th round, has been a good compliment also. Of course, Josh Allen can run himself. I think their offense is kind of on the up and up right now. Amari Cooper is going to get more comfortable. Those wide receivers are going to get better around him. I'm taking Buffalo to win this game. I mean, Seattle, they have key injuries right now. Adam Schefter reported today that Metcalf's week to week with a grade 1 MCL sprain.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Like, without DK Metcalf, they lose the explosive. And you can't lose a guy like that, in my opinion, and find a way to win this game. The Bills are 3-point favorites. So they are predicting a close game. Seattle's, of course, a tough place to play. It's a far road trip. But Seattle's lost each of its last 2 home games. In the Geno Smith era, or the start of 2022, the Seahawks are 12-9 at home, but only 8-12 against the spread. Josh Allen, top 5 scoring offense. The Bills lead the league in turnover differential, mainly because Josh Allen hasn't thrown one yet.
Yep.
So I'm taking Buffalo here to keep rolling, and I could see somebody wanting to go Seahawks here, but I'm not going to overthink it. I'm taking Josh Allen and the Bills.
Yeah, and that home record the last couple weeks is the biggest reason why I'm also taking the Bills. What I will say about this is probably going to be like a 38-35 game. This is going to be a shootout. The Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith have the highest passing yards per game in the NFL right now through 7 weeks. So you couple that with Josh Allen slinging it and not throwing interceptions. This is, I think, really at the end of the day, this is going to be a shootout type of game.
No DK though.
No DK, you're right, but this is, I think, really like
they may want to run.
They may want to, but we saw last week too that they used Kenneth Walker in that passing game, and they use him pretty effectively, right? And you still got Lockett. JSN for the most part hasn't been a huge factor in games. Ask me how I know. I have him on my fantasy squad. So he hasn't been a huge factor, but I really do think this is one of those games where it's like, okay, JSN, you got to step up.
Yeah.
It's Tyler Lockett, and then we got a running back and a guy who can come out of the backfield and catch the ball if need be. Noah Fant,
yeah.
And Noah Fant, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, you've seen his name a little more in recent games too, so I think he can play a big factor in this. And as I say this, watch, he gets like 0 catches and like 1 target. Yeah, so there's going to be a shootout, but I'm also taking the Bills in this. What I will say too is that I think Josh Allen does finally throw his first interception. Reek Woolen, Witherspoon on that secondary. I think they're going to get to Josh Allen and make him throw his first pick to one of those 2 guys. They're also bringing Byron Murphy is back, the rookie defensive tackle. He's back this week. Huge shootout game, but I'm taking the Bills. The Seahawks have not been great at home, and I I'm tired of picking them, and they just keep letting me down. So I'm going Bills.
Yeah. I know I tried to pick them last week. I really in my heart
Yeah.
I picked them.
Yeah, you did.
I would never bet on a team that I didn't believe was going to win.
Yeah.
So it's still lost on me why I said Atlanta. But no mistake about it, I'm taking Buffalo. So this is not
Same.
there's no room for no, but I no, this is the real thing here. So
Yep.
the game of the week in a bad way. This is the game that is going to be scarier than any Michael Myers movie that you could watch. The New Orleans Saints at the Chargers.
Yep.
This is going to be a rough one. This is going to be really rough. Derek Carr still recovering from the oblique, so Spencer Rattler is going to get the start again. The Chargers have been holding their opponents to pretty much nothing. But then offensively, they haven't been able to score very many points. So they're not really benefiting from it. I think when you look at football is all about matchups.
Mm-hmm.
And these games, especially when you're predicting one, whenever there's a lopsided matchup, I'm going to lean that way. And in this game, there is a very lopsided matchup to look at.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers are going to physically dominate the Saints in the running game. The Saints have the 29th ranked run defense, and the Chargers, that's their bread and butter right now.
Yeah.
They're physical, they're tough, they're totally different, and this is the Harbaugh effect, right? They don't have the weapons and the pizzazz and the finesse. They're very, you know what they are. There's no mysteries about this Charger team. And for the Saints, they're not going to be able to stop them. The Broncos, not a great rushing team. They were able to run for over 200 yards on this team. The week before, I think it was, who was it the week before that ran for like 240 yards, and it was a running back that no one even knew, and it was like his debut.
Gotta look this up now.
Saints.
Week 6 against the Saints was Tampa Bay. It was Bucky Irving probably, right?
No, it wasn't Bucky Irving.
That's who they played week 6, unless you mean maybe.
Oh, yeah. It was a different running back, though.
Okay.
And it was somebody that I can't remember, but he ran for a shit ton of yards, and it was like his breakout game. If you look at the box score of that game.
Sean Tucker.
Sean Tucker, yeah.
Yep. 136 yards, 1 touchdown.
Wait, 36?
136
oh, okay.
yards, 1 touchdown.
Okay, yeah. Like when you have guys like Sean Tucker running for almost $150, you have a serious problem. And the Chargers are going to run the football, but it's still going to be a very low scoring game. And that's why it's going to be dreadful. The Chargers, say what you want about their offense, they were able to march up and down the field. The Cardinals defense is pretty bad. They did only wind up with 5 field goals to show for it. They also had a turnover on downs. So they only scored 17 points. I mean, I feel like the Chargers are the obvious pick here. And I know that the Saints are going to be at home here. Or no, the Chargers are at home. Okay. I read that wrong. Yeah, Chargers all day. As much as I would love a Saints win. Like, I'm all in on the Saints win.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I hope Spencer Rattler breaks out. This is a breakout game. I really do. But I'm gonna go Chargers. It's gonna be, I'm gonna do a score here. I'm gonna say final score is gonna be, I'm gonna say 17-6.
Okay. All right. I thought you were gonna go a little bit higher, but I could see why. And that's kind of the same reason why. And we got Bill with the membership. Bill gifted one Only Football Podcast membership. Welcome to the Only Football Fan Rail Fanning the 716. I don't know who that is, but hopefully they come on by for the free membership. As a recipient of Bill's free membership, it's always an honor. So it was great.
I wish there was a way to look up their profile on YouTube.
Yeah.
But and then we could comment on their video, like,
or
hey,
something. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do that, but if they don't post videos, that's impossible.
Now we just gotta we gotta make them create a video and then we could comment on it. But thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. He said missed most of the show. Old man health issues. I'd say more, but it would be TMI. Bill, hope you're doing well. Don't worry about missing the show. Watch it when you can. We appreciate you. Thank you for that, and I hope you feel better. Saints, Chargers. This one is also easy for me. It's the Chargers. They have the better defense. Spencer Rattler looked like shit against the top defense in the NFL. The Broncos last week on Thursday Night Football. I mean, he looked like shit, and it sucks because you're bringing in this rookie quarterback who's making his first start of the year, something like that. And Spencer Rattler to go up against the Broncos defense, and then by the way, you're going up against the defense with the lowest points per game total this year in the Chargers. So it's going to be a rough 2 weeks for Spencer Rattler. I don't know what the status is for your Chris Olave, your Rashid Shaheed. Obviously, it's going to be Alvin Kamara is going to be probably the only weapon that's going to be able to do anything against these guys. The Chargers, of course, but yeah, I don't know, man. Again, I picked the Saints last week against the Broncos because I thought Alvin Kamara was going to be more of a factor, and I hope he is because he's on my fantasy squad. But I have a tough time seeing the rest of that offense do anything against the Chargers. I'm going to go Chargers 21 and Saints 9. 3 field goals for the Saints. They're able to get in field goal range. This game right here, though, because one of the biggest things, and I think you mentioned it, that the Chargers couldn't do was they were able to go up and down the field. Like you said, they were able to march up, but they had to settle for 5 field goals. Justin Herbert threw for 350 yards. He needs a wide receiver. If you start to see the same issues that happened last week against the Cardinals for them, I think come trade deadline, they're going to make a move for a Deontay Johnson, for
I think Cooper
Kupp as well. One of these guys on there. He wouldn't have to
move either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point. So I think they're definitely, if they find themselves in the real, in the same situation, as last week with the no touchdowns situation, then I think they go out and get a wide receiver for sure after this to complement who used to be a top 5 quarterback in Justin Herbert, who isn't anymore. But I'm taking the Chargers to win this one easy.
Yeah, and I wonder if Harbaugh has any buying remorse on Joe Alt. Seeing Malik Neighbors, the way he is.
Yeah.
Knowing Harbaugh, he probably doesn't. But
he's like, I love these big guys on the offensive line. He fucking loves them. You know it.
Yeah, whatever. I don't have to worry about my left or right tackle for a decade.
Exactly.
All right, let's move to the AFC West. Kansas City, they are undefeated. They haven't lost a game since December of last year. That was the Raiders that beat them. And that was a game where people couldn't believe it. How did the Raiders do that? Then this offseason had all of the talking points. You had the rookie safety Trey Taylor taunting Mahomes while holding the Kermit the Frog doll. Antonio Pierce also this offseason said he presented the recipe for beating the Chiefs. The Mahomes, kind of made comments back at him. The Chiefs have enough fuel here to go full throttle in this matchup. And this was one the Chiefs circled on the calendar. The Raiders know that they were the last team to beat them, and they talked all that shit. And now the Chiefs are going to want to come out and beat their ass. I think it's going to be a little more difficult. Now, the Chiefs traded for DeAndre Hopkins. And when it happened, it was of course that happened. And how did I not predict that. I'm so mad at myself. I'm like, that was such an obvious trade candidate, and that was such an obvious destination, and somehow I missed it. And
to be fair, I was thinking that they were going to get a wide receiver. I just thought it was going to be like a Deontay Johnson, maybe even a Cooper Kupp, but
yeah, no,
DeAndre
I
Hopkins
knew
was
you
there. I
talked
just didn't
about
even,
receiver.
yeah,
Yeah, I just couldn't
yeah.
believe because Hopkins, when he left Arizona, he was linked to Kansas City.
Mhm.
And that was like the obvious place he would end up. So he ultimately does end up there. Is it going to work right away? Yeah, of course.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he's a really, really good receiver. And the Chiefs are going to be an improved team now. And they need it. Mahomes' numbers are way down. Mahomes and Gardner Minshew are tied for interceptions with the most, 8. The Chiefs have the 5th ranked defense, and that's really why they keep winning all these games. I think they're going to force Minshew into some mistakes. The Kansas City Chiefs are just the better team right now. The Raiders are a 2-5 team. I don't think Kansas City is an unbeatable team by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think that they're bad enough to drop one to the Raiders, although it's an AFC West game. Nobody picked the Raiders in December to do it.
Mhm.
And this is going to be at home with their fans. This is an upset alert, but I'm taking the Chiefs. But
Okay.
but be alert. I mean, this could happen, and it would not shock me. I see the spreads at 9.5. I'm taking the Raiders plus 9.5 all day. No
Yep.
questions asked. Chiefs are not winning by that many points.
Let's see. I want to see because I don't know if if you saw this yet, but the Raiders signed Desmond Ritter. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh my God, wow, that's it. They're gonna start him and they're gonna win.
They signed him? Wasn't he traded to them?
No, he was actually cut from the
Cardinals, right?
I believe it was the Cardinals. Yeah, it was the Cardinals because they did a 1-for-1 swap of Desmond Ritter and Joshua Dobbs, I believe.
That sounds right.
Yeah, either way, Ritter ended up in the Cardinals. He got cut a few months ago. Now, I still don't see anything that says that he's going to start. But Minshew was benched last week for Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell broke his thumb. Minshew had to come right back into this game. Minshew played well.
It was for Rondale Moore.
Rondale Moore, the wide receiver. Yes, there we go. Thank you. And there was a media. They went to his locker. He talked to the media for a little bit. When I tell you, I wanted to like cry for this guy because the way he answered this question, I think the question was like, how does it feel to be back, on a team? And he got extremely emotional. Talked about his daughter asking where he was going to go. Like, oh, I'm going to Vegas, and he's like, everything I do for my family. But he said it in such a way where he was about to burst out crying. And he was like, it's another opportunity that I can prove. And you love to see that because Desmond Ritter got a lot of shit. And I'll put my hand up. I gave him a lot of shit in Atlanta. But to see him come back into a locker room, and this time in a Raiders uniform, and get really emotional about that situation, whether he starts or not, I think it's a great opportunity for him, right? Like, again, he said it himself. It's a great opportunity to prove to these guys and everyone out there that I can still belong here. And it got emotional. It got me a little bit emotional. I got a little choked up, not going to lie, because I was like, this is what it's all about right here, being able to play in the NFL. Now, the Chiefs, on the other hand, they bring in DeAndre Hopkins. Love the move, like you said. It was like almost like an obvious choice, and you knew. I think the entire NFL world knew that the Chiefs were going to bring in a wide receiver. It was just a matter of who was it going to be. So, great addition to the Chiefs. Obviously, Mahomes is struggling because he's passing the ball to Sky Moore and Kareem Hunt is the running backs. They've got a lot of injuries, and yet somehow they're still undefeated. With that being said, the Chiefs have a very, very good defense. The Raiders have some guys on defense, but they don't look good one bit. This is my upset of the week. Give me the Raiders at home. The Chiefs get their first loss of the season, and it is at the hands of Max Crosby and Desmond Ridder. Give me a 24-21 Raiders win at home.
Is he starting?
I don't know. If he is, fuck it.
Okay.
And I don't really care. I think he's going to come in regardless. If it's Minshew, he's going to replace him. And if it's Desmond Ridder, he's playing the entire game. Give me the Raiders, the Raiders at
Ew.
home.
Oh, man. All right. Man, that's crazy. I love it. All right. So 9.5-point favorites. The second biggest spread this week
Oh,
is the Carolina Panthers at Denver Broncos. We are 9-point favorites in this game. We haven't been a 9-point favorite since I think it was 2022 or something like that. This is insane. Now, Andy Dalton was involved in a car accident on Tuesday where he sprained his thumb. So guess who we get?
Our boy Bryce Young.
Wouldn't it be crazy if he was really good? And I
would
was
be so mad.
Out of all people, right? Like I've been like, no, he's not going to work. He's terrible. And then against the Broncos, he just lights it up. I mean, that would be crazy. Now I can joke about it because I don't think there's a chance that happens. Denver's defense is an absolute nightmare. Cody Barton won AFC Defensive Player of the Week. Almost 2 picks, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery for a touchdown, sacks. Denver has, I think, 3 players in the top 10 in sacks. They lead the NFL in pressures. They have, they have like 12 more than the second team, which I think is Tampa Bay. So the Denver defense, they are on a different level than every other team, and the numbers show. And when they provide that pressure, they have to get the ball out of their hands, so they throw it, and Surtain is normally locking down. In this case, it's going to be Deontay Johnson. He's going to be locked down on Surtain, and I'm going to do something really bold here.
Oh.
I'm going to predict a shutout.
Ooh, shit. Let's go.
The Carolina Panthers will not score any points in this game.
Love it.
Denver, their offense is getting to the point now where they're not even a liability. It's not even like, their offense is really starting to roll. Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, the rookie out of Notre Dame, although he keeps fumbling the ball. Sean said today that Javonte's making him carry a football around all week because he's fumbling the football.
What's his name?
I said his name a million times and now I'm blanking on it.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Audrey Estime.
Estime. There you go.
Yeah.
Estime.
But yeah, I think offensively Denver's going to move the ball. I think this game is they're 9-point favorites, but I'm going to predict that they win this game 27-0.
Ooh, big score. I love it by 4 scores. Fuck yeah. I love to see it. Yeah, I don't see the Panthers making this a close game whatsoever. I think the Broncos defense showed the last couple weeks what they are capable of. And they've been capable of that the entire season. I think they're going to destroy the Panthers. All I've got to say to you, Kyle, is have fun playing the Panthers because it is awesome to play them. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. And the only reason I say this is because I think 2 things. If the Panthers receive the ball to start the game, I think they go down and score. That might be the only score. That might be the only touchdown. But if the Panthers do not receive the ball to start out, I think they get 2 field goals this entire game. I think they get 2 field goals the entire game. If they get the ball to begin the game, they get a touchdown, and maybe they get another field goal, maybe 2 field goals to make it 13. But I think the Broncos, regardless, beat them by double digits. No matter what, Broncos are winning by double digits. Give me the Broncos all day. I think Bo Nix has another good passing game, like he did earlier this year. Who was it against that he had a good passing game? Was it the Raiders?
Tampa.
Thank you. Yeah, that big win against Tampa. Javonte Williams finally got it going last week, and I think he's going to continue that this week.
We're going to sweep the NFC South.
Hey, there you go. Sweep the NFC South because it's fucking
all blowouts too.
it's going to be fucking great. Yeah, right. As much as Audric Estime is not is fumbling the ball a lot, I still think he gets a touchdown in this. Maybe like a goal line type of thing. Maybe like at the 4-yard line, they give it to Audric Estime. I know it's Javonte.
Give it to Javonte.
I know it's Javonte because he's the one who can break tackles, and that's kind of been his thing ever since he's been in the league. But I think Sean also wants to have Javonte make him carry a football, but he's going to want to up the confidence a little bit too. He's like, hey, you fumbled the ball a lot. Let's get you a touchdown to make you feel better about yourself, about playing the running back position. Let's get you a score. So I think they can do that. And I think, honestly, if that does happen, I think Javonte is going to be one of the guys who's like, hey, Sean, let him get the ball. He's been carrying a football around the entire time. Let's get him inside the end zone.
Yeah, and keep an eye on Troy Franklin, who Cortland Sutton didn't have any targets last week. And Troy Franklin, who Sean said wanted to play a bigger role, that was Bo's number 1 receiver at Oregon.
Yep.
And Troy Franklin's starting to get involved. We're seeing jet sweeps and pre-snap motion, and the offense is looking. It seems like Sean's giving Bo Nix more plays. It's the offense seems simplified, and I felt like Sean was seeing that that's hurting Bo. So he's like, "Hey, let's let this guy loose a little bit," and he looks a lot more comfortable. And I'm excited to see if Troy Franklin can have another big game.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, man, we got 2. Because we're a lot of people are quick to point like the passing yards. It's like we don't have that many weapons. Like we are doing a lot with a little right now. And if we could get some of these younger guys to step up, maybe Marvin Mims gets some screens and we can get these younger players to start playing a bigger role. It's not even about a bigger role. It's about them proving that they're actually talented. Right? Like that's what this is about. Like, does Denver need to, as they approach the midpoint of the season with, over a 50% chance of making the postseason, is it time to maybe bring in a weapon like the tight end for the Saints?
Interesting. Yeah.
Or a Cooper Kupp. Is it, or can we do it with what we have? That's what we're still waiting to see. So I'm excited if Troy Franklin can make that step again. Then it's like, let's just keep this team we have. Let's not overpay for an old player. So yeah, should be a really good game. Really hoping Denver gets the win and moves to 5-3. Their season total of wins that they were supposed to have before the midpoint of the season. And then we go to Baltimore. This has got to be a blowout. We have to feel good going into that game. And I almost hope Baltimore doesn't lose this week so that they're not pissed off when we play them. I don't need them on a get right moment.
Yeah.
So
you don't want them to go in there and just run the ball.
Right. That's going to be a good game because they're not going to be able to run on our defense the way that they're doing on other teams. So we'll talk about that when we get there. But let's talk about the Bears, who are playing the Washington Commanders. This game would have been a lot better if Jaden Daniels was able to play. It's not for sure that he won't be able to play. He has a rib injury that he suffered last week. If he does play, this is going to be really interesting because we'll be able to look at the 2 quarterbacks taken. Caleb Williams, definitely him and Jaden Daniels have been the 2 most impressive rookies. The offense for the Bears, you're starting to see the running back
DeAndre
Swift starting to really get in his groove. Caleb Williams is throwing touchdown passes. I'm excited to see this game because for the Commanders, it feels like they're one of the best teams in the NFC, but the Bears are like, hey, we're here too.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an opportunity for the Bears to get taken very seriously and move to 5-2.
Yep.
And this is going to be a tough game for Caleb Williams. Is there any news yet if Daniels is going to play? Because Daniels, I'm taking Commanders. No Daniels, I'm taking Bears. And that's just the way it is for me.
Yeah, there hasn't, because I was looking up at updates as well today too, and it's still a week to week. I don't think he practiced today, Jaden Daniels. I don't think he practiced today. So I don't know if he's going to play. If he does play, I feel like there will be some of that lingering pain from last week in the ribs. So
yeah, it could affect him.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're a fan. If I'm in this situation, I think I can take this loss right now with how good Jaden Daniels has been. Now, Jaden Daniels is an athlete. He's a competitor. He's going to want to play in this game if he thinks he can play. I assume there's going to be some sort of lingering thing, a wrong hit from a lineman, a linebacker from the Bears can re-aggravate that. Kyler Gordon, our nickel, likes to come off the edge for sacks. So something like that happens and it gets worse. As a Commanders fan, you're like, no, what the hell? This is RG3 all over again, right? So if I'm being honest, I think the Commanders, with how Mariota played last week, I don't think they're in a terrible situation not playing Jaden Daniels this week. Now, as a Bears fan, I don't want Jaden Daniels to play. Would this be an awesome game for the number 1 and the number 2 to go head-to-head after the NFL flexed them, which Crafty said here? NFL flexed this game into the afternoon slot with Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, so everyone could see Daniels versus Williams, only for Daniels to get hurt. Do I want to see Jaden Daniels? No. Whatever edge, I think I said this on the recap yesterday, whatever edge the Bears can have, I want the Bears to have it. I want the Bears to go to 5-2. I want them to be closer to the win total of last year in week 8 than not know, kind of still have confidence in them, but I'd rather have them closer to 7 wins after week 8 than wait for it in week 9, week 10, week 11, right? Like, I want the Bears to stack wins. I'm not going to lie. But as a Commanders fan, you're probably like, I think Mariota will do well enough. Now, with Daniels, this offense is electric. With Mariota last week, this offense didn't really skip a beat. Mariota's been in the league long enough to be one of those guys who can come in and for a spot start or come in for an injury during the game and be good enough to continue to manage that offense. And he did really, really well last week. So a lot of credit to Marcus Mariota, because there's been times where he comes in and he starts for the Falcons, the Titans, whatever other teams, I think the Eagles at one point, and he's done really well. And, on the post-game interviews, he's talking about how the opportunities are great and how he's doing so great and how he really enjoyed playing and blah, blah, blah. And he's done well for the most part. Now, the Bears defense, on the other hand, they're a stingy group, right? Like the passing defense is great. The turnover differential is awesome. I think we're like 6th or 7th in turnover differential right now, plus like 8 plus 7, something around that number. I feel like the Bears can absolutely take some picks off of Mariota. And honestly, even if Daniels plays, I think they can do the same thing to Daniels. The only thing that the Bears can't do throughout this season is stop the run. They were able to stop Chuba Hubbard for a little bit, the Panthers run, but everybody else, we saw Jonathan Taylor, we saw Kyren Williams just gash the Bears' run defense. They just can't stop the run. They can stop the pass. They can get to the quarterback. They can take the ball away. It's the run game that they really struggle in. So Brian Robinson, I know, I'm pretty sure Dan Quinn and who's the Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, they see what they're going up against in the Bears defense, and they're looking at Brian Robinson and being like, hey, dude, you're going to have a huge role in this game, especially if Daniels is not going to be able to go. The Bears need to be able to bunker down, stop the defense, have TJ Edwards, have Tremaine Edmonds right there, ready for the run, ready for Brian Robinson, because if Marcus Mariota is playing, they really have to just worry about Brian Robinson breaking runs. But if Jaden Daniels is in it, now you have to have a spy on him at all times, because that dude can break away for huge chunk plays. So the Bears defense has a lot on their plate, regardless if Jaden Daniels plays or not. It's going to be even worse if Jaden Daniels does play, but they got to stop the run in this game. I trust Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, Jaquan Brisker. The entire secondary is great. Gervon Dexter Sr. is doing really good in the interior, and even Billings, our defensive tackle, as well, is doing really good getting pressure, being able to get to the quarterback. And again, Montez Sweat is like the leader of this defense and probably one of the most productive guys. And I haven't even said his name yet. That's how damn good our defense is. Is like Montez Sweat is like the best guy, but everyone else across the defense is really, really good and able to make an impact. Caleb Williams in the offense, they just got to keep it rolling. Shane Waldron has just got to keep the play call rolling. Let's get it to DJ. Let's get it to Keenan. Let's get Rome involved, and let's keep Kmet, one of the top tight ends right now in the league. He's like first in receptions or something like that, first in yards. I forget which stat he's number one in amongst tight ends, but he's up there. He can be elite. So keep feeding the ball to him, and then DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson. We get to the goal line, give it to Roschon. Let's pass it to DeAndre Swift and a little wheel route, check down. In space, DeAndre Swift can make a difference. But it all comes down to Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has to show out in this game, because if Caleb Williams loses and the Bears lose this game, all the shit afterwards is going to be like the Bears picked the wrong quarterback again. Jaden Daniels is the better quarterback. And for the most part of the season, Jaden Daniels has been the more productive quarterback. But now we're starting to see Caleb Williams catch up and be the guy who he knows and the rest of Bears Nation know who he is. So I'm taking the Bears. With all that being said, now imagine, right? With all that being said, I'm taking the Commanders to take the dub. I'm taking Bears, baby.
Yeah, and the Bears are 11th in the league at stopping the run, giving up 112 rushing yards per game. Guess who's 10th?
The Broncos.
At 111.7.
Yep. Yeah, dude,
we are
we're
giving
right
up
there.
I mean, our teams, it's weird.
Yeah.
Another thing. All right. So our primetime game, we got the Dallas Cowboys and the 49ers.
Whoa. What about Titans Lions, baby?
Titans Lions. Where's that game? Is that a 1:00 game?
Yes. Oh my God. Am I off?
Oh, okay. I see it. Yeah. Titans Lions.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Phew. I thought I was off.
Yeah. I'll take Detroit.
Yeah, give me Detroit. This is whether it's Mason Rudolph or whether it's Levis, give me Detroit all day. This really isn't a conversation. I love Jared Goff. I love what they're doing. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Anzalone. This defense hasn't skipped a beat even without Aiden Hutchinson, which is amazing for them. But I think they make a move at the trade deadline as well for like a Max Crosby type of guy, Jadeveon Clowney. Someone like that, I think, is going to go to Detroit before the trade deadline is over.
Yeah. Detroit's going to keep rolling for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Sunday Night Football, the 49ers are 4.5-point favorites against the Cowboys. The Cowboys haven't scored 20 points or more since week 3. Mm-hmm. Their opponents have blown them out twice in the 3 losses. Micah Parsons, underwhelming start to the season. He could miss his 3rd straight game with an ankle. The 49ers, though, a ton of injuries at wide receiver. Ayuk done for the season, torn ACL and MCL. Debo spent time in the hospital this week with pneumonia and fluid in his lungs. Jawan Jennings missed last week's loss with a hip injury. George Kittle's dealing with a foot sprain. I mean, it's very concerning that the 49ers, and we didn't even say CMC, right?
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of both these teams. This is not what we expected for a lot of people going into the game. For Dallas, it's like, this is why you pay CeeDee Lamb big money. It's for games like this. Yep. And it's to carry the Cowboys right now in a competitive game. But because of all the injuries with the Niners and their receivers. I think this game's going to come down to a field goal either way. San Francisco, in my opinion, has earned the trust in this spot. So I think the Cowboys are going to do enough to cover the spread, but I'm going to take the 49ers to win by field goal. 23-20.
Yeah, we talked about the Bucks just a little bit ago about all those injuries happening to Godwin and to Mike Evans, and if I follow that same logic, I have to take the Cowboys in this, but like something tells me to just stick with the 49ers here, especially at home. I obviously the weapons on Dallas right now are just slightly better because of the health than the 49ers. I just like the defense for the 49ers a little bit better. Like, this is an ugly game. And this is a game that's on Sunday Night Football that preseason we were like, let's go. This is going to be the clash of the Titans right here, right? Like, these guys are probably going to be, 6-1, 5-2 by the time they meet. And that is just not the case whatsoever right now. You've got what's Dallas at? Are they like 3-3 overall right now?
Yeah,
and
coming off a bye week.
Coming off a bye week. And then the San Francisco 49ers not any better, 3-4. So not something that a lot of us expected preseason, but yeah, part of me likes the 49ers more, and especially the home team. So I don't know. I don't have much suck, but the 49ers at home, give me the 49ers at home. I'm taking San Francisco.
All right. And next up, we got the Giants going to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. This is probably gonna be my one of my big bets here. I think the Giants cover the 6.5 point spread, but I think the Steelers probably win this game. Like right now, the Giants are just struggling. I mean. But let's talk about the Steelers. Russell Wilson had his first start against the Jets last week. He looked pretty good. I'll be the first to say it. I'm still not a buyer at this point. Just the Jets' defense has been pretty bad. And when you actually watch that game, it was like there were just miracle catches taking place. And give George Pickens credit. And even the one-handed catch and the moon ball that was basically just a jump ball. I credit Russell Wilson because he was the quarterback, and I'm going to do that. But do I think that is like realistic to duplicate? I don't. The thing though is that the Giants, as good as their defense is, their offense is just terrible. They have scored 10 total points in their last 2 games.
Oh my God.
It's just been very difficult. And I mean, scoring a single touchdown, it's difficult right now for the Giants. And that's the sad part, is that their defense is actually pretty good. The offense is just bad. The Jets tried to use the quick game against the Steelers last week. It kind of worked initially. It kept the Steelers off balance. TJ Watt didn't have a sack. I just don't know if Daniels can operate quick like that. It's not really his thing. And the results just haven't been there. It's hard to see that changing when Daniel Jones is 1-14 in prime time. Like, this is not when we've seen the best out of Daniel Jones. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game because of the Giants' defense, because I'm not a believer in Russell Wilson. But I don't think the Steelers are going to win by 6.5 points. I think this game comes down to a field goal. And I think this could be like a 13-16 win for the Steelers. But I don't see the Giants losing by a touchdown.
Yeah, this one is a bit tough for Monday Night Football because, again, we talked about Russ last week in primetime as well, and how well he performed. Obviously, it was a slow start for him, but at the end of the day, he did really well. He was able to get the ball to his guys after starting off not even able to pass the ball past 10 yards and landing at the receiver's feet. So we saw how he struggled. The defenses for both of these teams are really good. Dexter Lawrence on the Giants side is the sacks leader, and he's going to get to Russ. I feel like regardless of how good the offensive line is, he's going to get to Russell Wilson. TJ Watt on the other side is going to get to Daniel Jones probably a lot more. And I think these defenses are going to make life a living hell for these quarterbacks. I'm going to make I don't know if this is a bold prediction or not, but I feel like Daniel Jones is going to get sat in the second half of this game because of how poorly he's going to play in the first half. I think it's going to be not Tommy DeVito. Who's the other guy they have?
Drew Lock.
Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock's going to come into this game to start the third quarter, and they're going to look a little bit better, but that's going to wear off after about a quarter. Drew Lock is going to make some nice passes. He's going to look like he did when he would come in for Geno Smith last year in Seattle. They might score a touchdown with him, and then all Giants fans, and unfortunately, Bill, I'm sorry, you guys are going to be very happy about what happens, but I actually do think the Steelers are able to win this game by a touchdown, if not like 7, 8, 9 points, something like that. I think they take the dub here at home on Monday Night Football, and Russ has another, we know who we are, we got to believe in ourselves type of post-game interview, but the Steelers ultimately win it on Monday Night Football, and they take the dub.
Yeah, and Jones, I mean, they asked Dable on Monday, and he said Jones is the starter. So, you know,
that goes.
He's very clear about that. Drew Lock didn't have much success when he came in on Sunday, but kind of put him into a game that was already over. So, yeah, I'm with you on all that. So those are our predictions for week 8. We will live by them. We will die by them.
I love it. Love it. And Kyle, I think it is time for
top 5, no debating. Top 5.
Top 5.
Top 5. All right.
Our favorite segment of the show. Kyle, go ahead.
All right. At number 5.
Ooh.
I have the Texans. I'm putting the Texans at number 5. I think the Texans are a good team. I know they're coming off a loss to Green Bay, but I'm pretty bullish on the Packers right now. And I thought they played a good game on the road against Green Bay. Yeah, it could have been better, but they only have 2 losses on the season. And I think the Texans are definitely a top 5 team at this point, barely.
Yeah, I feel that. Coming off the loss, I don't know if I'd put them on there. They were on my top 5 last week, but not this week. At number 5, I've actually got the Chiefs. They're down a spot. They're still undefeated, but Mahomes doesn't look good. Obviously, they have a lot of injuries going on in that offense. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins, which I think is going to help. But until we see that come to fruition, we expected the Jets and Devontae Adams to just work like magic. Until that comes to fruition and you see like a lot of progress, I'm still going to keep the Chiefs in my top 5, but they are at number 5 for me right now.
At number 4, I have Buffalo. Buffalo, a team that is now going to, I think, start winning a lot of their games. You got Amari Cooper coming over, immediate impact, a good running game. Josh Allen playing, I think, his best football yet. This is kind of the time for Buffalo to pull ahead and cement themselves as one of the teams that you just don't want to play in the NFL. Coming off of a 2-game losing streak, people kind of had the Bills really high and then they forgot about him. I think Buffalo's, with the win that they just had and with another win coming up, I think they're back. And the missing piece was Amari Cooper. And sometimes it's as simple as that. But yeah, adding Amari Cooper to this offense, I think makes Buffalo one of those teams that can compete for a Super Bowl this year.
At number 4 for me, they're coming off a very, very tough test and unfortunately a loss against the Lions. I've got the Vikings at number 4. They've still got a really good team. They went up against Buffalo, the Detroit toe-to-toe, and they lost by about a field goal or so. So a lot of credit to them. I still think they belong in this top 5 because of the way they were able to play Detroit and how well Detroit has been playing this season. It was a true test. Unfortunately, somebody has to lose unless, you're Donovan McNabb and you don't realize there's a tie. But the Vikings for me at number 4.
At number 3, I have the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, kind of I'm not going to say juggernaut because they have their weaknesses. They have weaknesses in the passing game on offense and defense, but they don't really have to pass the ball when they can run it for 200 yards. I do think it's going to be a problem when they're down in games and they're going to have a part of their game that they're not able to tap into. And that's going to remind everybody why they're not a juggernaut. I know it's easy to forget about all that when they're on a 5-game winning streak and they're running the way they are, but there are ways that they can be beat. But for right now, they're a top 3 team in the NFL and they're on the list of teams nobody wants to play.
Yeah, 100%. For me, my number 3 is going to be the Bills. The Bills, we talked about Josh Allen earlier, not throwing any interceptions. The addition of Amari Cooper worked immediately with a touchdown over the middle of the end zone. Keon Coleman was a very good teammate, helping his boy out too, helping his new teammate out. And even Keon Coleman has done pretty well too, even with the addition of Amari Cooper. Obviously, it's only 1 week, so we'll see how that continues. But I like where the Bills are at, especially coming into the season with like a lot of missing pieces on the defensive side and no Stephon Diggs. Obviously, that hurt. They bring in Amari Cooper. It seems like it's fixed. I got the Bills at number 3.
And number 2, I have the Packers.
Packers. Oh my God.
I mean, Jordan Love, he's good for at least 2 passing touchdowns, probably 3. I like Tucker Kraft. I mean, he's one of the best tight ends this year. I like the Romeo Doubs, the Christian Watson, the Jaden Reed. I like how there's all these different options for him to throw the ball, but really in the way the league is today, especially this year, it's a defensive league and Green Bay is taking the football away. I think they're taking away the ball more than anyone else. Xavier McKinney seems to be like a very solid addition. They have a shutdown corner, a lot of young players flying around the ball. I look at Green Bay and I know a lot of people don't see it yet, but I see a team that absolutely should be in the NFC Championship against my number 1.
I think I have a good feeling who that is. My number 2 is gonna be the Lions. Again, the only loss so far has been to Tampa Bay, and even that was a very good game. Jared Goff is a true competitor, and I think his odds are a lot higher right now for MVP too. Obviously, with the way that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have been playing, it's a little bit difficult, but I think Jared Goff, regardless, at the end of the day, is probably the MVP of the Lions no matter what. They're playing extremely well. They've got weapons on offense. They've got weapons on defense. Amon-Ra's having a bad day, get it to Laporta. Laporta's not having a good day. Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are going to give you that Sonic and Knuckles, right, type of 1-2 punch. So I like the Lions. It sucks because they're in the NFC North and they're so good now because of my Bears, but they're such a good team. A lot of credit to Detroit and what they've been struggling with for a while. Lions at number 2.
Yeah, my number 1's going to be the Lions.
Yeah.
They're everything that they were sought out to be when you saw Dan Campbell take over as head coach. They were going to be tough. They're definitely tough. They were trying to be cute in the beginning of the year, and they were like, hey, let's just punch people in the mouth with our running game and our offensive line, and then we'll have Jared Goff throw the ball on 3rd and 3. They seem to be kind of impossible to stop. We talked about the Vikings defense being good. They had 4 straight touchdown drives, and Dan Campbell said he wants resilience. What's more resilient than being down 14-0 to start a game and then going on to score like 30 unanswered points? I mean, the Lions are one of those teams that even if you get an early lead on them, it means nothing. And
Mhm.
not many teams. I talked about the Ravens and how that could be the key to winning. That means nothing to Detroit. There's really not many ways to beat them. This is a team that is like for sure going to end the season with 12 or 13 wins.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. For me, my number one is going to be the Ravens. The Ravens for me are just playing outstanding football. They're playing bully football. Um, those first two losses at the beginning of the year were tough losses. And even me, after week two, I was like, shit, are the Ravens that good? And then they turned it on. They went toe to toe literally with Kansas City in week one. Week two, they had a bad loss against the Raiders. I'm sure they wish they had that one back. But ever since then, like I said, it has just been absolute slaughter week in, week out. I've got the Ravens at my number one. I can't believe you took Packers number two. You're insane.
I can't believe you have the 32nd passing defense. I mean, I feel like if you're 32nd in any major category, you can't be number one.
The offense is unstoppable, dude.
I know, but it is concerning. I totally get it. But I am like it's weird because Minnesota's the 30th.
It's so weird.
It's very strange.
But like the Chiefs last year had like the best defense, and then their offense wasn't like great, and yet they're winning Super Bowl. So I don't know. Maybe that's the recipe because
maybe you have to be bad at something.
Yeah, you got to be really bad at like one key thing on the team.
But the Chiefs won the Super Bowl by being good at defense. Remember when the Broncos won their Super Bowl? It was because their defense was good. When they went in 2013 with the best offense almost of all time, their defense was bad and they got blown out. I think that recipe works. You can be bad at one thing. I just don't think it can be defense.
I respect it. Well, there's our top five at the very bottom of the screen on the ticker. Make sure to check that out. And that was
top five, no debating. Top five.
Kyle. Kyle. I think it's time for motherfucking.
Welcome to the Chives with Kyle. I love it. We should do that every time. My chives for today. Matt LaFleur brings in ex-Jets head coach Robert Saleh to help at Packers practice.
Crazy.
Robert Saleh was seen back on a practice field on Wednesday in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur said the former New York Jets coach will work with his team through Thursday this week, calling Saleh's role fluid. Saleh, well known for his defensive mind, is being brought in to help Green Bay's offense, however. Very interesting, right? I think that's always a good deal to have the perspective, that defensive perspective on that side of the ball. So basically getting more knowledge about defense in order to win the chess match on offense. So he's just taking a look at some of the things we're doing. It's a good opportunity for him to learn and also for him to help us and give us perspective on how teams might see us, how they might defend us. LaFleur added, he's got an elite defensive mind, but that's why I want him on the offensive side so he can help us attack defenses. Saleh's presence in Green Bay shouldn't come as a surprise. He and LaFleur have been longtime friends since working together at Central Michigan University as graduate assistants in 2004. Saleh was instrumental in getting LaFleur into the NFL when he was the Houston Texans, with the Houston Texans, who hired him as an offensive assistant in 2008. Saleh also hired LaFleur's brother, Mike, to be the Jets offensive coordinator from 2021 to 2022. Wow. LaFleur, who calls the offensive plays in Green Bay, stressed that he didn't want Saleh involved in first-year Packers defensive coordinator Tyan Halfley's workspace during his short stay. And he said, I don't want to do that. I think Half and our defensive staff have great things going right now, and I totally trust them. It's year one. He's got to kind of go through that himself. So I think this is great for Green Bay. I mean, Saleh, obviously somebody that understands the defensive side of the ball. Green Bay, a team that's already feeling like they can compete this year for the whole thing. And then you bring in somebody like that. And for Saleh, I think it's good for him too, because if Green Bay does go on to win something big, all of a sudden people are like, how big of a role did Saleh play in that?
Yeah.
So I think it's a win-win for both. It's better than Saleh just kind of sitting at home, twirling his thumbs around, trying to figure out what to do while, there's really going to be no movement on him as far as becoming a coach until next year.
Yep.
So I think it's a good move, and they're buddies. That's really what it's about. It's like if you got fired, I would be like, hey man, why don't you come hang out? We're winning. We could use some help over here. So
true, and it's similar to what Vrabel's doing with the Browns right now, right? Because he's kind of keeping his name in the circles there. Salah's doing the same. Bill Belichick's obviously doing the media way. But like you said, I think it's a really good way for these guys to continue to be in those NFL circles. And I think they were going to regardless, but now you're starting to see them a little bit more and have a little bit more influence on NFL teams too. So I think this is a really, really good opportunity for Saleh.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So I did not expect that. But the last thing I'll say is I really do like that he's like, leave Jeff Hafley.
Yes.
I think it's important that, that too many cooks in the kitchen. It's a real thing. Green Bay, their defense is playing outstanding right now. So definitely you don't want to bring in a guy and then have too many ideas and too many, you're trying to load a game plan up with just too many thoughts. He needs to have a clear mind. So I think he's doing it all the right way. It's not just bringing him in, but bringing him in a way that doesn't negatively affect the team, because that could be something that could be like, this wasn't a great thing. But I think the way he's doing it is a good thing for Green Bay.
Yeah, definitely great. Great way to kind of use Saleh to kind of get another perspective on the offensive side. But thank you guys so much to everybody who was here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our stream tonight, the Week 8 preview, picks, predictions, and of course our top five. Huge thank you to Jinja, who was in here. We had Bill in here as well, and I can't remember if we had another one of our members in here. I think we had Lil E. Yeah, Lil E we had in here, and thanks to everyone else. Let's go Bears, Lil E. That's right. Thanks for everyone else who was in the stream. We appreciate you guys joining us. Go and follow us on X and now Rick. Kyle, where can they follow you on X?
You can follow me at NFL with Kyle.
And go follow the Only Football Podcast on X at Only Football Pod. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, that like button, that heart button, that follow button, share button, all the buttons. Hit all the buttons. Doesn't matter what they do. Hit those buttons.
Besides the dislike button and the do not recommend button.
Besides those two buttons. But to be honest, give it a try. We'll see what happens. But thank you guys so much. Don't do that. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Follow us again on YouTube, X, and Twitch. And Kyle, always a good time, brother.
Always a good time.